we are making brioche buns today. Just a little the water and the milk that is required in this recipe is going to require to be heated. To be honest, I've always considered just a quick blast of 30 seconds in the microwave will be enough. If you don't have a microwave though, you may want to just pop it on the heat just to get some warmth into that.
We got Louise saying hi, looking forward to this. Rona saying afternoon.
Afternoon.
Saying hi.
Lovely. We're trying so that it's not always sweet. And I want to teach you how to do different things and have a bit of fun. So recently Max has been making burgers galore. We have a burger meal once a week now, don't we, Rich? But Max loves making them, and we're trying to encourage them to just explore cooking more, not just the baking but the cooking. So he wants to make burgers the other day, and I hadn't got any brioche buns, and I do love a brioche bun, so I thought that's a good workshop.
Leslie's saying looking forward for this. Let's knead them with tea. Knead them for tea.
Yeah, no, we're going to do the same. And if you've caught on my discussion board, bless him, but Max has done his very own little 5-minute workshop, which is pre-recorded because I don't want to make it too scary, and we've put it onto YouTube to go live at 3. So if you'd like a very easy burger recipe, he has popped it online, and it's a real Max takeover, and he's very proud of it. So if you haven't found us on YouTube, the link is in the discussions for this event, and he would love it if you popped over and watched his little how-to video. Right, so we're going to take this in stages. You are going to need 250 ml of warm water, and you're going to need 60 ml of warm milk. Now I'm going to give my milk to Mr. Boozy Baker just to quickly blast that for 30 seconds in the microwave. Will be only a moment. So my water I heated a minute ago. It's lost a bit of its temperature, but it should be fine. Let me just see if this is, yeah, so that's quite hot. So overall I'm looking for kind of a body temperature. Warm, not too hot. We don't want to kill the yeast, but we do want to activate it. So you want that kind of mid temperature.
Move your jug in front of the yeast. Sorry,
yes, let's do that. So I've combined the two now. That's my water and my milk into one jug. And to that, I don't know if you recall us doing the cinnamon buns, but we're going to add some sugar to the mix. So I want 2 tablespoons of sugar added to warm water and warm milk. So that's 250 ml of warm water with 60 ml of warm milk, and I've added 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now I'm using caster sugar. You can use granulated, either's fine. And I'm just going to give that a stir up for the sugar to dissolve. Are we all right on the questions there, Mr. Boozy Baker? He's off on dreamland there.
And let's just ask, sorry, can you repeat that regarding the milk?
Yeah, so it's 60 ml of warm milk and 250 ml of warm water, about body temperature, and I've just mixed in 2 tablespoons of sugar. I've used caster. You can use granulated if you prefer, but a white sugar, 2 tablespoons into that, and I've just mixed it and dissolved it in. And then we're going to add, I'm going a bit fast, I'm really sorry if I am, I will keep repeating. You want 7 to 10 grams of yeast. So it can be dried or fresh, that's fine. Usually you need a tiny bit less on the fresh yeast. So I just added that, and I'm just going to give that a stir in. It's not going to dissolve. It will mix slightly, but you'll find residual bits move to the top. But that's fine. Give it a little stir. And then we're going to leave that for about 5 minutes. And what you should find is that the heat from the water and the milk is going to help activate it, and so will the sugar. It's all kind of working together, and you will find that on the top of your milk you've probably got some little brown specks, and you'll start to find the odd bubble, and then that should grow, and hopefully we get a good couple centimetre or so of growth of the yeast on top of the liquid. So we just have to give that a moment.
Louise is using sachets. I know each sachet
That's fine.
7 grams.
Yes,
so
that's no problem. Yeah, well, one sachet should be absolutely fine for this. Very nice, Mr. Boozy Baker. Right. So I'm going to just give it a minute to make sure that you've caught up with that. Mine's got a few bubbles in it. Not too much activity at the moment. That's fine. As long as it does something, it shows that it's active. It's a really good way of making sure that your yeast is alive. So if you've got yeast that you've had in the cupboards for quite a while and you're not sure if it's going to work or not, rather than putting it all into your bread flour and things, if you make any kind of recipe with yeast, just put it into a bit of warm water and sugar with the yeast, and if it starts growing, you know it's alive. So the yeast on top has now almost covered the top of the surface in my jug. It's not really growing on the side so much, but it has definitely covered the top. So I'm just going to lightly move that out of the way whilst we move on. Brilliant, lots of thumbs up and hearts apparently. Excellent, love a heart. So we're going to move on to our dry mix. Whilst that's activating, we will get ready for it. So this is a bit different to a main bread recipe in that we're going to use part plain flour and part bread flour. So you're going to want 260 grams of plain flour. I'm going to pop that in my bowl.
Anna's yeast is very sluggish.
Very sluggish. What, in that it's not doing anything? Check the temperature of your. I mean, my jug feels quite just slightly warm to the touch. If yours doesn't feel warm to the touch, maybe put it in the microwave for 10-15 seconds or something. You don't want to do too much, otherwise it's going to kill the yeast, but you could always gently warm it up that way. Mine's starting to really activate now. I can see kind of more bubbles forming on top. It's not like a cauldron bubbling, it's nothing like that. It's not so rigorous, but it's definitely growing. I can see some kind of lightness to it. Right, so in your bowl you should have 260 grams of plain flour. And I'm going to add 195 grams of bread flour. Brioche buns are nice and light, so that's why we're doing the half and half, because we're not going to put something too dense flour. We're going to use that all-purpose just to make it that bit lighter. And then we're going to want 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Now I've got quite large teaspoons, so I've just got to be a bit careful with mine, make sure they're nice and level. 1 and a bit. That should do nicely. So that's all my dry ingredients. And before we add anything else, I just want to make sure that's nicely combined. So I'm just using a spoon. It can be wooden or metal, and I'm just going to give that a little stir up so that the plain flour, the bread flour and the salt are all nicely combined before we add anything else. So I'm going to give you the amounts again. That was 260 grams of plain flour, 195 grams of bread flour and 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Right, I don't need the sugar anymore. Sorry, I'm looking at the sugar thing. What do I need that for? But I just hadn't put it aside. Have we got some thumbs up happening? Excellent. And lots of hearts. Excellent. Right, now I've asked for 2 eggs. We're only going to use 1 in the actual dough. The other egg is going to be used for our wash over the top of our buns. So just 1 egg. So I'm just going to crack that in. I'm not going to stir it in yet. Now, oh, hang on, I've got a bit of shell in there, don't want that. Did I get it? I think I did. Right. The yeast, so mine was about a finger's width. It's now probably about 2 fingers width in the matter of minutes. It's very happy. It's kind of got a bit of bubbly, kind of lighter, frothy texture on top. So hopefully you've got the same. I'm now going to add that with my egg, and then I'm going to give it a mix in. So I'm going to try and do it slowly. So you can see all the milk's going in at the moment, all that milky water, and then I've got this extra froth of frothy yeast. There we go. So I'm going to just stir that together now. There we go. Now this does make quite a wet dough. If you do have a mixer with a dough hook attachment, you can use that, but because that's kind of going a bit beyond what we normally do for a workshop, I try and do things by hand as much as possible for anyone who doesn't have those accessories. And you can knead this by hand, and actually it wasn't too sticky. It was fine. Right, so I'm going to show you. The dough is pretty sticky and a bit messy at the moment. I've just given that a light mix. We're now going to add a couple of tablespoons of softened butter to this. So I'm just going to break it up into bits, just to little blobs. There we go. So I've got 4 blobs of very soft butter in there. It's just room temperature. And I'm just going to mix that into my dough with a spoon. So brioche buns, you want really light, soft, subtly sweet, buttery rolls. And then you can use that in a sweet or savoury way. So you could make it into a loaf, you could put chocolate chips in them, you can make them into rolls to put with, you know, sandwiches. You can make them into ultimate beef burgers. They're quite versatile rolls, which is nice. Now, I'm going to just scrape down this dough, and then I'll show you what I've got going on at the moment. Right.
Anna's asked 15 grams or 25 grams roughly in butter.
Oh, about 20 grams, something like that. So that's my dough, if you can see that. It's quite rough. You can see the kind of oiliness from the butter. It is quite sticky, but if you just lightly knead it, now I'm going to keep it in the bowl to knead it to begin with, just to bring it together, and when it's a little bit more together, then I'm going to tip it onto a surface. So I'm just going to use my hand and just lightly, you can see it's coating it already, but I'm just going to lightly start pushing it together, and it is that bit sticky. I'm not going to handle it too much until it started to be a bit more elasticated and stick to itself rather than me. But this is going to need about 8 minutes of kneading. So if you do want to put it in a mixer, I do understand. I personally really like kneading by hand. I find it quite therapeutic. I do like it, and I can feel the dough. I can feel when it starts to behave and do what I need it to do.
Janice asked, is it 2 tablespoons of butter?
Yes, please, 2 tablespoons. And we just need to just incorporate that into your dough, and then you start to, once it's in, you start to knead your dough. Now you can see my hand, although I've constantly been mixing, it's not that bad. It's not that sticky, and that's because that dough is starting to activate. It's starting to become a little bit more stretchy and stick to itself more than me. So I'm just moving it around the bowl. I'm kind of folding it on top of itself very lightly at the moment, and just moving it around, punching it a bit with my, but just using kind of knuckle to nail, just to lightly touch it, just to save myself getting into a massive mess, to be honest.
Pat enjoys hand kneading as well. She finds it very satisfying.
Yeah, me too.
And again, once again, skillful, because she's texting and
yeah. Yes, I forget when I'm asking you to do things and then asking you to talk to me as well. That's quite a skill set to have, especially when you are kneading and getting messy.
Richard's dough seems very wet.
Yeah, it is quite a wet dough. So as you can see, my fingers are sticky from the dough. It's not looking like a silky glossy ball. It is quite wet. It's not quite your regular bread dough. You do need it to be that bit softer. So I'm just teasing it almost with my kneading and trying to get it to come into a bit more of a ball. Right, guys, I'm getting a bit more covered. It's not too bad, but what I think I'm going to do, because it's looking a bit more like a dough now, I'll show you in a minute. I'm just going to get a bit of bread flour, and I don't want too much because I don't want to put too much flour into my brioche buns, but I'm just going to spread just a little handful out on my side, and I'm going to tease the dough out. You can see how wet mine is. It's quite sloppy, but that's fine. Might just scrape it down a bit because I don't like waste. So if it will come out, let's do that. Have we got any kids baking today? I think we've got a few. There we go. Right, so what I do find baking live is that something I've done numerous times, guaranteed the time I do it live, it'll be the one time that it doesn't quite go to plan, and it is that bit sloppier. This is a bit more sloppy than I want it to be, so I'll bring a bit more flour into it, but we'll get there.
It's nice to get more good feedback from previous workshops. Teresa's lemon cake was amazing.
Oh, excellent.
And Sandra loved the ravioli workshop.
Oh, good. Oh, it's nice to see what you like that we've done. I'm just going to use a bit more flour because this is a tiny bit more loose than I want it to be. There we go. When it starts coming together, it will start to pick itself up off the worktop. It's taken a bit more work than usual, but it is 8 minutes of kneading, and it's certainly going to get that today. So I need to think of some more workshops. I know Swiss roll's been called for, so I need to just have a look at the timing of that, because we've got a baking and then cooling and then rolling out, so I just need to check that will work. But I'm going to look at that one because I think that's a nice idea. I'm also thinking maybe some oatmeal cookies. Granola bar seems to have been quite popular, so I'm just thinking maybe another one with a few oats. So I'm giving it some thought, and I am giving Christmas and things for Christmas a bit of a thought too. But it is definitely coming together more.
Melanie's saying her dough is still very wet, and Annette says hers was sticky but is now looking good and able to type again.
Brilliant. Yeah, mine's kind of arguing with me, but we are getting there. I am winning. Thanks, love.
I'll put a knife away.
There we go. So, I don't know if anyone's been following our Facebook page. We made a Porsche cake last week, and I've made a Spider-Man cake. Actually, Spider-Man versus Venom, wasn't it? So I'll be putting pictures up of that one later on. But we're having fun with novelty cakes at the moment. Oh, thank you very much for moving that for me. So I'm just using my spoon just to bring up some of the what's it called? Dough. That's the word. Right, I think, hopefully, this is its last amount of flour I'm putting out for it, because that's feeling much better now. Still very nice and soft, but not glue-like in texture. So there we go. If it's going to stick to me a little bit, I'm not actually too worried about that. I do want it to remain soft. That's looking pretty good to me. There we go. Now, I need a knife, which I didn't bring to the table, so I'm going to have to ask Mr. Busy Baker for a knife. I think there's one in the block. Oh no, he's found one. There we go. Right, so we need to cut this into 8 pieces. So I'm going to go half. And just because it's extra sticky, I'm going to go half again. And half again. We'll get there. Half again. If it wants to come off my finger. Still staying together, but it is quite sticky. Let's move that one off.
Now is fine, but have to add 2 large handfuls of flour.
Yeah. I do wonder whether I've minused a few grams off one of the flours by accident, because it certainly doesn't normally do that.
And Louise says all that kneading, she needs a G&T.
Yeah, I started early. It's like I knew. Right. Once you've got 8 balls in front of you, you just want to shape them, and this is why it's useful for it to be sticky as well, because you don't end up with kind of what's the word I'm using? I want to say lines, kind of. Come on, Mr. Busy Baker, help me out. Kind of like where it joins. Joins is the word. So I want nice smooth tops, and then you can pop that down on a baking tray with some parchment over it. Now I've got quite a long baking tray here, so I can probably fit 8 buns together. You do want to leave them with a little space in between them to be able to. I like it. It doesn't matter so much. I'll finish a sentence in a minute. I quite like it when the buns grow, and then when they bake, they kind of just touch, so you end up with soft sides. However, I have found with the brioche buns, they're so nice and soft because of the wash you put on them. It doesn't overly matter. But if you haven't got a long tin that you can add, I mean, these are about 3 fingers apart. Then put 4 on a tray. Do 4 and 4. Right. Just going to put a bit of flour on my hand just to stop it from sticking. There we go. Add that one on. We're getting there. Once these are all on a tray, we're going to cover them with a tea towel or some cling film and leave them for 15 minutes. I'm going to show you the egg wash, and then once we've put the egg wash on, they're fit for the oven, and they only take between 13 and 15 minutes to bake, so they're quite a quick bread roll to make, really. Right, I'm just going to move them along a little bit. We've probably got to about 2 finger distance at the moment.
If you're cooking in a loaf tin, how long do you need to bake for?
So I haven't actually tried it, to be honest. I would say you probably need to bake for another 5-10 minutes, but you're going to have to keep an eye on it, I'm afraid, because I haven't done it to be able to tell you exactly how long it's taken me. I just thought earlier, oh yeah, it'd be quite nice to pop them all side by side and let them grow into that and have that kind of shape. So I would imagine, given that there's more surface area for it to get to each individual bun, and these are going to take 13 to 15 minutes, I would have thought as a loaf, I would have said about 20 to 25. Right, what you need to do is cover these, and I'm going to show you how to make the wash, and then hopefully by the time I've made it, I can show you how I'm just going to brush it on. So I'm just going to cover mine with a tea towel for a moment. Ordinarily, I'd have rather had this all clear, but bread dough does seem to stick rather a lot. So I think I'm just going to have to take the worst of it to one side and just work over the top of it. Oh, bless him, Mr. Boozy Baker is trying to help me. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. We'll put that over the top and pretend the dough mix does not exist. Right, so for the wash, I've already put, just for ease, a tablespoon of milk. It's not warmed, it's just a tablespoon of milk into a little container. And I'm going to add an egg. That is it, guys. That is your wash. That is 1 egg mixed with a tablespoon of milk. Once it's all combined, that is ready to use. What we're going to do, you can either use a pastry brush like such. If you don't have that, you could use a back of a spoon, you could use a little bit of kitchen towel. But we're going to let the buns grow a little bit. It usually takes about 15 minutes. And once they've started to grow, I'm going to dip my pastry brush into the wash and just brush it all over the top of each of the buns. And that's what's going to give it. It's not just the golden colour, it's going to help it to remain soft when in the oven. And I think the small amount of cooking time and the wash creates that really nice, soft, golden bun that you'll associate with a brioche bun. Any questions?
Yeah, Kat's asked, do I put the oven on now?
Yes, good question. Yeah, so if you want to preheat your oven to 200 degrees or 180 fan or gas mark 4, and that can start to warm up as the brioche buns grow. I've got the Lockdown Baking with Boozy Bakers is available on Amazon. And it's got numerous recipes that we've covered on the workshops. So if you do fancy buying the book, you are more than welcome. As I said, it's on Amazon. Max is doing a Boozy Baker takeover on YouTube, and you will find, I think it's about a 5-minute video, so it's not a huge amount of time, but he's going to show you how to make burgers to go into the brioche buns. I've put the link on the events page. But otherwise, head to Boozy Baker's YouTube. You'll find us. You'll see our logo and all our other workshops. And he's really excited about that. So if you can leave a comment for him as well, that will make his day. I'm just going to see how my buns are doing.
Kirsty's just asked, when would the egg go on?
Yeah, I'm just going to... So ordinarily, I would say give these the whole 15 minutes before you put your egg wash on. You want them to be a bit bigger than this. However, I'm going to put the egg wash onto one of my buns now so that you can see how to do it, and then I'm going to leave the rest for later. So I'm just going to dip the brush in, and then just, if you can, try to keep it off the board. There we go. So that's it, that's all you need to do, just around. But yeah, give it a good 15 minutes, you'll see them start to grow, and when they're ready, then pop them in the oven.
And that said, how much should they rise before baking?
You should expect them to rise maybe just under double the size. Kind of what you'd expect from a burger, really. They will grow a little bit more in the oven as well, but I mean, if they're not growing, if you have a particularly cold kitchen, give them 30 minutes. It won't hurt them.
Jane says her first online cooking course thought it would be stressful, but it wasn't. Thank you.
Good. Oh, and lastly, once they are out the oven and you can handle them, or you can get a spatula under them, put them onto a cooling rack if you have one. It just avoids them getting damp underneath.
Louise has asked, are we doing book 2?
Yeah, I do. I really want to do book 2. Quite like the idea of completing a book for Christmas time, but I do appreciate that it's getting closer and closer and I haven't started it. Please do go over now to YouTube and watch Mac, but please go and enjoy his burger workshop. He'll be very happy. Okay, bye guys.